I'm doing a gesture drawing demo tonight, and for those who don't know what gesture is, gestural drawing is getting the dynamic of the pose, not necessarily everything being completely anatomically correct and perfect, but get the energy of the pose, which is why some of these are really quick. Some of them take 30 seconds to a minute, depending on the complexity of the gesture and also the development of the gesture. So I've done a lot of these back in the day. I actually learned to do this at Otis College of Art and Design from a very sweet lady named Beverly Bledsoe. And I've done probably thousands of these since. I haven't done these in years, so I'm a little rusty, but bear with me. And I'll just show you guys how to get the gesture down. The first thing I want to show you guys, this is a Conte holder and a Conte lead. It's the best thing to use for gestures. You can also use charcoal, but Conte lead is really something that's a little brittle on newsprint, which is the perfect combination for gestures. So anyways, I just want to show you guys the first part of the gesture. So the first thing you want to do is mark the top and the bottom. And I have these for inspiration. I'm gonna use one of these. So let's say I want to do this one. I don't know if you can see it in the camera roll, but the first thing you want to do is mark the head, then the torso, probably somewhere here, and the shoulders, then the pelvis, direction of the pelvis, and you can also go a little bit further down, and you know the legs, to get them approximately where they need to be. And as you see, I'm doing it with a bunch of lines, just marking it down, and the arms wrapping around, another arm, and you can always keep changing it if you need to. You're not trying to make everything right with just one line. You can just use a bunch of lines to do it. And here you got a gesture that's approximate gesture of this female figure. And as you see, it looks like something. It looks like a person, the wireframe of a person. And the main thing that you want to consider is to have the relationship between the torso, the rib cage, and the pelvis. So the rib cage goes in this direction, and the pelvis goes in this direction. And you can even box it out to understand what you're doing. So I'm gonna box it to show the direction of it. And knowing anatomy actually helps this process, but you don't necessarily need to understand anatomy perfectly. You just have to capture the dynamic of the pose. And after you get this, you can actually put on the skin or the muscles. So I'm just going to do it real quick. And as you see, I'm not really drawing it, I'm more building it. So I know how the structure of this gesture is. And then after you do the wireframe, you can develop it into a more sophisticated drawing. You see, I'm still changing things around and still searching for that line. You can also work on the line quality. And the head is not as important, but mark the face as well. And the breast should be somewhere here. And you want to try to make sort of symmetry with the aspects of the figure, but of course the figure itself is not going to be symmetrical if it's dynamic. But what I mean is that if one breast is here, you make a line, and the other breast is going to be around here. Then the navel, which is the belly button, and there you have somewhat a figure that you could see. And let me do something else. Let me do another one. Let me just do this one right here. And mind you, I'm not trying to get everything completely, absolutely 100% accurate. I'm just aiming to get the dynamic of the pose. So I mark where the head is. Then you want to aim to find the direction of the pose. So you can also do lines on your newsprint to sort of guide the direction of your pose. And the thing about drawing, a lot of people who are beginners don't know, is that you don't really draw with a line. You build things. You build things on paper. So this is essentially the way drawing is done is it's construction on paper of various shapes and forms that you then develop into whatever it is that you want to make. So as you see, I'm not even doing the feet yet, or the legs and the feet. I'm just sort of going with in my own way to it, but I wouldn't recommend doing it unless you really know what you're doing. So the legs need to go before, as a step that's before what I just did. And this is actually the more traditional way of doing it. And a lot of artists during the Renaissance, like Michelangelo, Raphael, they used a method similar to this one when they sketched down, when they did sketches. So it's not very different from what the Renaissance artists did. But there were also other methods of drawing. This is just to get the dynamic of the pose. As you see, the poses are more fluid this way, and you want to get the fluidity of the pose. And as you see, I got down the figure, the wireframe of the figure, and you can even mark where the rib cage is and the pelvis goes in this direction, the rib cage goes in this direction, and the connection between the two. You can indicate it's the coccyx, or I don't know how to pronounce it, but that's the anatomy part. The bone that connects is in the connecting phase of the pelvis and the rib cage. You can also do the buttocks. And also, one thing to keep in mind is that when you do gestures, you should build it sort of like tubes sometimes. So if you think that the leg is going in a sort of direction which is outward, you can also make a little like a cylinder that guides your decision making, and this is closer part to you. So line quality matters in terms of line intensity, and the same thing here, but right here the leg is a little bit in a different position, so it's bent a little differently. You see it's in a different way. And then you can put on the muscles if you want, muscle by muscle, or you can put on just the skin of the figure around it to make it actually look like something, make it look like the actual figure in real life. You can do the hair. And as you see, I'm using menu lines to indicate where things are, because I'm not worried about making a mistake. In general, this is really just rough indication of things, and it's better to use more lines than one line. So I have something here which is a figure, and oh, there it is. There's the female figure, and I'm gonna do a male now. So the same concept as everything, but I'm not gonna talk this time. I'm just gonna focus on doing it. And let's see, let me pick the pose. Something interesting. Yeah, okay. So I'm gonna do it. So as you see, I just jotted it down. This is a quick wireframe gesture. Took me probably like a minute to do that. And then I can build from it. As you see, the male is more wide on the shoulders than the female. And it's sort of the opposite, where the female has more of a wider pelvis and the male has more of a wider shoulder area and a more narrow pelvis. And one thing I want to mention, in case I forget, I don't want to forget this, is that you don't draw with like this. You don't draw like this. You have to hold the Conte like this. This is the professional way to hold anything when you draw. And also you use the wrist motion to draw. You don't go like with your shoulder. You don't draw with your shoulder. You draw with your wrist. So I'm gonna complete this male pose, and that'll be the end of the demo. I hope you guys will learn something from it. I hope this helps anybody who was wondering how you draw gestures. And this is sort of, like I mentioned earlier, I don't mean to repeat myself, but I will reiterate, the Renaissance artists used similar method to drawing when they did their studies, quick studies. So this is essentially a method that artists used for hundreds of years, and you could learn it too if you practice. you know, I'm a little bit rusty, as you see. I'm not really that good at it right now. I've done thousands of these, and you know, right now I haven't even done these in years before I did this demo. So I'm a little rusty, but I still have the memory in me to do these, and I understand anatomy quite well to be able to create these gestures, and that's that, you know. And it also helps to study the skeleton, the skeletal muscles of the figure, to know where they are, to know how the figure connects together on the inside. And that's that. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Thank you so much, and take care. Peace out.